This is Charlie Rose.
Welcome to our broadcast. Jack Lemmon's 40 years in movies and on stage represent one of the great acting journeys of our time. From Mr. Roberts and Some Like It Hot to A Long Day's Journey into Night and Glengarry Glen Ross, Jack Lemmon has gone from being our best light comedian to being one of our best tragic dramatic actors. Along the way, he's won 2 Oscars and has been honored for Lifetime Achievement by the American Film Institute. This year, he will be seen in 3 movies, count them, 3. TNT's presentation of David Mamet's A Life in the Theater, Robert Altman's much talked about film Shortcuts, and with his good friend Walter Matthau in Grumpy Old Men. We're very pleased to have Jack Lemmon here for a conversation that I've been looking forward to for a while. Welcome.
Thank you, Charlie.
Great to have you here
with you.
Let me first talk about David Mamet and go back to Glengarry Glen Ross, because when that came along and you saw that script, tell me what you thought and what did it say to you? And
I just felt it's a peculiar thing. When I was a kid, well, I was in movies, but I was a kid.
Yeah, right.
Anyhow, the 40 years that you mentioned, those first 4 or 5 of those years, every time I'd do an interview, I'd get these funny looks from, who the hell do you think you're kidding, you know, because I kept saying that I couldn't, I was in my 20s now, around the time I was doing Pulver or something, and I kept saying I can't wait to get older because the parts get richer. Well, I really believed that.
Yeah.
And it's true, and all the other actors on Broadway and in New York that I really respected all said the same thing. The parts get richer, you get older, you know more, you can play parts better. Well, it's true. There are great parts when you get older. What they didn't tell me is there's fewer of them.
yes. So they get richer, but fewer.
Now, I had seen a lot of David's plays, and I had read David's plays, but I had never acted in one of David's plays. And all of a sudden, along came Glengarry, and it kept coming along and coming along. It was several years before it got off the ground, despite the fact that it had won a Pulitzer Prize.
Because people said what? That it was too dark,
Probably too dark, that the language would be a turn-off. I don't know. I have no idea. Whatever it was that the studios felt were the ingredients to make a, quote, hit, unquote, because it's always approached, you know, from an economic point of view rather than an artistic one. I suppose that's understandable if you're putting the money up. At any rate, it just sat there. And then finally it did get off the ground. And once it did, and the actors fell in, I mean, that probably is the best overall cast I've ever worked with.
Incredible. With Pacino
absolutely,
and you and Ed Harris and Alex Baldwin and who am I leaving out?
The Baldwin part was added.
Yeah.
That was never in the play. And David added that. And I think that, to me, the screenplay was even superior.
The screen was better than the play.
I think so, even though the play won the Pulitzer Prize. I think that Alec's part, which he played brilliantly, I think really explained the situation and early on in the film and really let people know the pressure that these guys were under, which was enormous.
For those who haven't seen this film or saw the play, it's about the tough life of a real estate salesman. The play was set in Chicago, the movie's set in New York. It's about selling land, and you play the character you
Shelley
play.
the Machine Levine.
Shelley the Machine Levine, who is who is without a moral center, who is without...
They all are to an extent.
Yeah.
You know what, it's interesting. In a peculiar way, as individual a writer and as brilliant as David is, I think he's probably our greatest American playwright right now, and certainly in a handful of the great playwrights in the world. As individual as he is still, there is a commonality. Is there such a word as that?
Yes.
Anyhow, that's good.
Yes.
I'm getting better. With Save the Tiger, which I did way back in '72, in this sense that they both are concerned with the misuse of the American dream underneath it all. It's the erosion, I think, of ethics and tenets of behavior that we would look up to when I was a kid anyway, that my father would live by. If my father ever saw the way I behaved and Al behaved and everybody else in that movie, if he were alive today as a businessman, he would say, I don't believe this.
I don't know any businessman like
what
that.
has happened to this country? And it's right. What has happened to this country from, you know, there were smatterings of it from the Teapot Dome on, but certainly from Watergate on. you could feel it. You could feel this erosion in which the ends justify the means, and certainly they did there.
Save the Tiger, though, was about a man who was just who had plenty of wealth, was just trying to
Yeah.
be greedy.
Exactly.
On the other hand,
but the material things were the only things that
cared
meant
about
anything.
There
really
was no,
to him, you know.
there was no value beyond.
That's it.
And on the other hand,
Beyond the buck.
and what do you try? Save the Tiger won an Oscar for you, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But what do you try? How do you look inside this character? Because some people thought that Lemmon will find a way to make him interesting because he'll be a little bit sympathetic. But was that what you wanted to do to this guy? You
It's
didn't at all.
very interesting. I did everything I could, and with Jamie Foley, and I would speak to Alec
Foley
about
was the
this,
director.
and to my
Yeah.
other guys. I'd say, if you see me sliding into anything in any reading where you think I'm playing it in a way that might gain sympathy when I could be playing it another way, holler, let me know. I did everything I could not to make the character sympathetic. The first review picked up said, somehow Lemmon made this man sympathetic. He's a terrible human being, and Lemmon makes you care about him.
guy. Lemmon.
I said, I'm delighted you made me, that you think I made it. I did everything I could. He's not a nice man.
Yes.
I did not like him. I did not like the character in Save the Tiger, but I cared about him.
Yeah.
Now,
Why
when I
did you
say I
care
didn't,
about him? Because
I cared about him in the sense that you would care about Richard, you know, who was murdering kids and trying to assume the throne and everything else in Shakespeare. Because he's fascinating and he's interesting and he is human.
Right.
Decent people can do indecent things. There's no question about that. It's the erosion of character as much as it is the erosion of the tenets of behavior that we might respect. But somehow or other, poor Shelley is up against it to such an extent that there is a built-in sympathy, I think, no matter how rotten the character basically may behave.
Because his life is in balance or
It's
something, I mean, his survival or whatever.
And he has his daughter in the hospital, which is just barely touched on.
Yeah.
And he can't even get her bailer out of the hospital. He can't even get the money there. And he keeps saying, well, I'll get the money in the morning. They turn the phone off in her room and everything. I mean, all of these things, it's very hard to combat feeling sorry for a guy like that. And on top of that, Jamie Foley had it raining and pouring rain every time I put my head out the door.
Yes,
so I was like
I remember
a
all the
drowned
streets.
rat.
Yeah. Who wanted you? Was it David Mamet or was it the director or the producer?
I think it was the producer who first wanted me.
You
but
had
I guess David was being consulted.
Yeah, and you had to go read with Pacino?
Yes, but what we were doing then was Al and I were set, and we were now reading everybody else.
Okay, you didn't have to audition for this, I guess,
No.
is my point. You know,
No.
I mean, they wanted
I
you.
would have.
You would have.
I would
You
have.
saw
Absolutely,
this.
I
This
would
was
have.
a piece,
Yes.
as you said.
Absolutely. At this point in my life, I think the two of the most wonderful things that could ever happen to me, especially on top of all the good fortune I've already had, I'm now speaking professionally, would be to get that part of David Mamet's, and then suddenly the next year to get a life in the theater.
That's what I'm coming to.
Again, to get this second part written by David is just a 1 in a million shot to me.
What makes this astounding to me, and to understand it, is here you are with 2 Oscars and 8 nominations and Tony nominations and all that you have done, both comedy and drama. You're saying, boy, when you get a good script, I mean, it makes your life. I mean, you wake up and you say, this is more than work. This is what they're paying me to do what I came to do, and to use all that I have experienced, all that I have,
absolutely
learned. And you don't get that much. You don't find those kinds of things.
See, the worst thing, really, about a so-called successful career, now I'm using success the way we normally use it, which is wrong, but somebody else's opinion. When I say, Charlie is successful or this and that, or whoever it is successful, we're usually thinking in terms of how well he is known and how much money he makes. Basically, it should be how you feel about yourself.
Right.
If I swept streets and I felt that I did it better than anybody else, I could be a very successful man. I remember reading headlines in papers when I was an out-of-work actor in the 40s here in New York. On the front page of the Times, I couldn't buy it, but I would look at it. On the front page of the Times in the corner of Times Square, it said, "Successful railroad tycoon kills self." And I remember thinking, I never forgot that. I thought, if he's so damn successful, why did he kill himself?
Because he wasn't successful as a human being.
He was not at all happy.
Yeah.
Anyhow, now I've blown what you asked me.